Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Black Guy and the Jew show. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's the football show with
Guess
no
which one?
name.
Guess which one is the Jew?
Yes, which one is which? We are obviously looks like we're rolling solo tonight. Just the dynamic duo here without Mr. Clint, Lauren, both busy. Hope they'll chime in the chat though.
I have
Eventually, give
actually.
us something.
I do have some inside information on where Clint is. He is currently on a Southwest Air flight on his way into Dallas Fort Worth. He's going to be
Mm,
trying out to be the new kicker for the Dallas Cowboys.
hopefully, he will make it. That leads. Look. First question. Let's talk about those Cowboys. Let's talk about the Cowboys. Well, fine. We were going to do a recap anyway. We can recap. We'll go backwards. Let's start with Monday night then.
Monday night's
Mr.
game.
E, did you watch the Monday night game, the Monday night beatdown?
I watched the first half and then my sleeping pill kicked in. So I'm, I'm pretty old, dude. Um, so I caught up with it I checked the score and I checked the highlights and then I actually watched, the NFL red zone version of it, just all the plays real quick. Um, Dallas looked good, but I don't think Dallas looked as good as Tampa Bay looked bad.
Yeah,
Um,
they're bad.
I think it's just every part of that team just. I mean, it's sad because players, and I'm not talking just Tom. Players get old and then are just going to drop off super fast. That's just how it always works. And it just seemed like that entire team aged 10 years in the past, 4 months. That defense was supposed to be so good. Um, and Tom Brady with those weapons was supposed to be so good. It's just what happened there was just really, really demoralizing. I watched it. I got to be honest, living in Philly, I was happy to see the Giants
Happy,
beat
of course.
to beat Minnesota. One, because I like the matchup versus the Giants more than I would the matchup against Tampa Bay or Dallas. But I'm also happy for Merrill. It's nice to have the commish
the commish,
to,
the
to have
commish.
something to cheer about.
So since we're talking about Dallas, let's look forward here. What is Dallas's shot at knocking off the 49ers?
I don't know that it's that great. Dallas always has the potential to be a great team, but Dallas also has a history, Dak especially, in playing to the level of their opponents. Um, but even if he plays his best game, it's going to be really hard
It's gonna be hard.
to move anything against that San Francisco defense. The Niners are so good defensively. Zeke has nothing.
He's done.
Zeke is done. Tony
He's
Pollard.
done. He's done.
Tony Pollard is a free agent, so he's either going to be number one in Dallas or he's going somewhere else. He's getting paid, and he's a number one next year. I think the Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb. They have Dalton Schultz that are viable weapons. Um, but the Niners are just so good. I
They're
don't.
good everywhere.
Yeah, I don't see the Niners defensively giving Dallas too much, and I don't see Dallas defensively stopping Debo, stopping Ayuk, stopping Kittle, and stopping CMC. Micah Parsons is great, but Micah Parsons is one man, and he can't do all of it.
He
So
can't do it all.
I
He has a shot. He lines up away from Trent Williams. He has a shot, but other than that, whew, tough sledding.
listen. I
Then they're
mean,
just gonna chip with use check. If that's what it comes down
if
to,
he
they'll just
lines
chip
up
with use
away
check.
from Trent Williams, then he can get to Brock Purdy all day. But if he does that, you've got CMC on hot routes all day. You've got Kittle over the middle. Sure, maybe Ayuk doesn't have a great day, with the passes downfield, 10, 15, 20 yards down. But you got Debo and you've got Kittle across the middle and CMC on the checkdowns all day. I just don't see a way, for
We'll
Dallas to
see,
beat Francisco.
final score prediction: 49ers Cowboys. We'll
Oh,
write these down again.
I'm going to go, say 27-17. I can see Dallas scoring some points, but I can't see them keeping up. I really can't.
Um, I don't know, Dallas. If Dallas, that Dallas that showed up in Tampa Bay for those first 11 minutes of the game, if that Dallas shows up in San Francisco, they might get 40 hung on them. But I'm gonna say
Oh,
because I feel it.
you mean the Dallas that did nothing on the first 3 drives?
Yeah, that Dallas shows up, it'll be 21 nothing before they
Yeah.
know it. But I expect the Cowboys to cowboy. I expect to hear a lot of Stephen A. cackling on Monday morning. I'm gonna say 49ers 38, Dallas 16.
Wow. You got that as a 3-score game. Wow.
I think that
So
gets out of hand. I think Dak reverts to the norm because it's a lot of Dak's the best cute Cowboy quarterback ever this week that I heard. I don't. That's disrespectful.
Dak is Dak is a competent quarterback. Um, all things considered, he might not be like as he's not as good as Troy, and Troy wasn't the best quarterback
Troy
ever. He
wasn't
was
that
clearly
good.
system. Troy wasn't that great, but Troy had weapons around him. He had like the triplets. And Dak has something like that. You know, he has Zeke slash Pollard. He has CD Lamb, who I'm super high on. I love CD Lamb, going early, wide receiver top in the top 5 going in fantasy drafts next year. I drafted him in the first round in
I
our show
saw.
league
I
this
remember.
year. And then I wound up trading him for Cooper Cup, and that worked out well. Um, yeah, I'm high on CD Lamb. Um, it's just something about that team. Something about that team that year after year. I mean, listen, when you're in the middle of a game and the owner of your team tweets, "We are holding open tryouts for kickers. Just come down to the field right now in the
Right
middle of this
now,
game." That is, I mean, I get it. You're joking, but you're like the face of that team. You can't do that, in my opinion.
I think the Cowboys. I think I've told you my opinion. The Cowboys are eternally snake bitten until they do right by Jimmy Johnson. Until you do right by Jimmy Johnson, this team will never win shit. It'll be good, and it'll be good enough to win, but they will not win.
Yeah, well, Jerry will never do that, so that's not
There
going
you
to
go.
happen. That's not going to happen.
Cowboy fans, all you gotta do is hold out till Jerry dies.
That's
Then
something
maybe,
something
then
to look
maybe
at.
you have a
And then
shot.
Steven takes over, so that's a big change. So
Then maybe you
Dallas
get a
so
shot.
Dallas San Francisco is the late game on Sunday. That's the 6:30
Okay.
Eastern game. Let's look at the earlier game on Sunday, which is 3 o'clock. What I really think is really the most intriguing game of the 4 this weekend is Cincinnati at Buffalo.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think, first of all, these are, of course, the same 2 teams that met a couple weeks ago on a Monday night. So there's history there. This game is at Buffalo. I know that next week, the championship game has the possibility of being at a neutral field if
Hmm.
Buffalo and Kansas City both were to win this weekend. I have strong feelings that I think this game between Cincinnati and Buffalo should also be at a neutral site, because if Cincinnati would have won that game, Cincinnati would be hosting this game this weekend.
Exactly.
Um, so I think that there's really something to say there. If I was Cincinnati, I would feel somewhat shafted. They were facing having a coin toss for a game versus um, Baltimore. If Baltimore would have wound up in the well, I guess they did wind up in the 60. But if San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers would have lost, um, that said, I think this one is probably the highest scoring game of the whole weekend. These are 2 teams that have, well, Buffalo has a good defense. Cincinnati really doesn't. Um, this is Josh Allen versus Joe Burrow. This is
This is
who's the
it.
best quarterback. This is like one of those, you know, 42-38 games. This is just this is a good game.
This this reminds me, and you're an old guy like me. This
Yeah,
reminds
thanks.
me of the Marino. What's oh my God, what's the guy's name from the Jets? What's the Jets? What's the
The
Jets
quarterback?
quarterback? Yeah,
Yeah,
when
Kenny
Marino and this
O'Brien. Yeah, Kenny
O'Brien
O'Brien.
and Marino would get
Yeah,
together and they would have
Pat
these
Ryan.
350, 400 yard
Yeah,
shootouts. Neither one of them would ever win anything, But when they played each other, they would be like, this was the game to see. I'm agree with you. I think this is the highest scoring game. I think personally though, I think I think the new Joe Cool takes it out of Buffalo's hands about playing a game in Atlanta. I think Cincinnati wins this game
Do you?
in the end. I, I like Buffalo's defense, but Buffalo's defense was basically, let's say, 3 to 4 drop passes away from losing to a rookie third string quarterback in a playoff game at home. I mean,
Yeah.
if Waddle, and they're saying Waddle's shoulder was hurt, that might have led
Yeah.
to the next two
Early.
to three drops, but he got pile drived on the first hit. So that's his excuse. We'll go with that. If he says he's hurt, he's hurt. But if he catches either one of those drives and keeps those drives alive, I feel like the Dolphins at least get field goals out of that. And knowing how the rest of the game went, I feel like Buffalo was primed to crumble. Like Josh gave his normal 2 picks, his fumble, his bad decisions. He gave you the 70
Yeah.
yard arm flicks down the seam, but he was trying so hard to give that one away.
Yeah. Yeah, I
He
mean,
tried.
Josh Allen's going to Charger. Like he did everything. Like he's going to give up the ball 3 times. I think Waddle getting hurt was bigger than you can really quantify. And honestly, Jeff Wilson had an okay game, but not having that quote unquote two-headed monster with him and Mostert, that also hurt because now you're running with Ahmed, or
Ahmed.
however you pronounce it. I was waiting for Miles Gaskin to
I was
wind up
like, whatever
showing up this
happened to
game.
Miles Gaskin? Like
Miles Gaskin fell off the face of the earth.
last year's starter,
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he's that's just crazy. Miami probably should have won that game. Miami
probably.
probably should have won that game.
And I
Um,
won't blame it on that first down that wasn't a first
it
down at
wasn't a
the end
first down.
because
Yeah,
that would have required a third string quarterback to go 85 yards in like 27 seconds. But still,
but
it was a
equally,
shitty
Jeff,
call. It
you
was a
know what?
shitty call.
But equally, as much as you see, this Cincinnati Buffalo game is really, in my opinion, the best matchup of the weekend. But very easily and almost should have been Miami versus Baltimore because what happened in that Cincinnati Baltimore game, you
Ooh,
know, I as much respect as I can give to Snoop Huntley, I offer up because he was not that great in the regular season this year. He did not have any semblance of a team around him. Um, that game was 17-17 when he fumbled. That's a 14-point spread on that fumble. By the way, Carl Hubbard is still running with that ball. He'll be
still
in
running.
Dallas also to try out for kicker. He'll be there in about 12 hours. Um, I mean, we're looking forward and looking back at the same time. Baltimore had no business even being in that game, in my opinion. I mean, what are they? They averaged like 17.8 points over the last 6-7 weeks.
6 7 weeks maybe.
Yeah, but since Lamar went out, and well, we can have a conversation about Lamar and his situation going forward here, but that this game could very easily, now obviously the seedings would have been reseeded, so it wouldn't have been Baltimore versus Miami. But the point is, we got a marquee game, and maybe we shouldn't have.
And shouldn't have it in Buffalo. We got the game we got, but it shouldn't be in Buffalo either. But that's a whole nother issue with
That's
the
a whole other
NFL.
story.
That's
That's
a
a
whole
whole
nother
other
story.
story.
That's a whole
So
nother story. So who else we got?
the one last thing that I take out of um, this game with Baltimore and Cincinnati last week is kind of a theme that I'm harping on a little bit this week, and it runs through Lamar also. But is J.K. Dobbins and a comment that he made after the game, where he said, on that play, he kind of Marshawn Lynched it, kind of said, I should have gotten that ball. I should have gotten that play. That ball should have gone through
And they
me.
should have.
And it should have.
And they should have.
It absolutely should have. But I don't think that that's what you say out loud, on social media, and you don't say, you say it internally. I think it's a bad look. I think it's a selfish look, and he's absolutely right. Beast Mode should have gotten that ball in the Super Bowl, 100%, and JK should have gotten the ball on the 2-yard line, 100%. Everybody knows it. but I don't
You
think you
said
say
we're
it.
gonna get into Lamar, but just from the other thing between his comment, Sammy Watkins talking out loud about Lamar's contract, Lamar
Yeah.
himself. I do believe that the Ravens that we knew, the Ed Reed, them Ravens that foundational Ravens, that Ravens is gone.
They're dead.
This
Yeah.
Ravens team seems to be
Me, me,
kind of
me.
fracturing right in front of us. I
Hmm.
don't believe Harbaugh to be long for Baltimore. It wouldn't shock me if the Lamar thing goes south, if Harbaugh all of a sudden retires and needs a break or something. He's been there, what, 15? Going to 15, 16 years?
The Baltimore Ravens have had 3 coaches in their lifetime. They had Ted
Yeah.
Marchibroda for the first 3 years. I mean, Modell wanted Belichick to come with him. He was in Cleveland just before. He wanted Belichick to come with him, but he no. They had
Yeah.
Ted Marchibroda for 3 years. Then they had Brian Billick for 9 years, and it's been John
Jim,
Harbaugh since what
6,
97, something like
early,
that.
early.
Nah,
So
it's like 9 years. 2007, somewhere in that general. He's been there for a long time. You can never fire John Harbaugh. He's won 2 Super Bowls. Firing John Harbaugh
well, that's why I
would
say retire,
yeah. I mean, that
retire.
would be like firing Mike Tomlin. That would
Well,
never happen. It'll never
Mike
happen.
Tomlin might get fired next year, but that's a whole nother
Mike
reason why.
Mike Tomlin has still never had a losing season.
And it still doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Mike Tomlin has a good team being built there.
They do. They do have a good squad. Steeler fans should be looking forward to that team next year, especially if Pickens takes that real football and fantasy football step that I think he's gonna take. Fryermuth could be
Yeah.
in the Waller, Mark Andrews type conversation. As long as Pickett does what he's supposed to do, they could both be top 3, 4 positional guys next year.
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
sure what they're gonna do about Najee.
if they're diverting, I mean, if we're diverting into Pittsburgh here, I'll give you this hot take. I'm pretty sure. Hey, Lauren,
Oh,
Hey,
I'm
look who decided
pretty.
to show up for work.
I thought
Look
I'd
who
swing
decided to show
by
up.
for a few minutes.
We are. We just finished bashing Baltimore. We're going to come back to Lamar in a little bit, but we're real quick on Pittsburgh here. That the hot take here on Pittsburgh is that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Deontay Johnson is a free agent. And I think
Yeah.
he's out of Pittsburgh. And then George Pickens is your number one. Hot take name to really keep an eye on. Calvin Austin. It's a rookie. He did not play all of this past year. He was on IR. Speedster, great hands. I think he has a future in Pittsburgh as a number 2 there with Pickett, but Deontay Johnson is gone. So, Lauren, just to bring you up to speed here, we've recapped our previews of the Dallas-San Francisco game. Jeff gave us his prediction on the Cincinnati-Buffalo game. He thinks Joe Cool here pulls it out. I'm not in agreement. I think Buffalo wins it. But we think that that's the highest scoring game this weekend probably is the Cincinnati-Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know who I would actually. I have no idea. I'm gonna have to enjoy that one. I couldn't tell you. I don't even. I would say Buffalo for the feels.
For the
Like,
feels, going
well,
for the
that
the
whole
they've
field.
got like the
DeMar
emotional.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, they have the emotions, and
Now
he'll.
you did see Jim Kelly wandering around the sidelines right before they said DeMar wasn't coming, that
I
he was
did see
back
that.
home. But he was at
Yeah,
the
I
stadium
saw that.
because he was at the walkthrough earlier that morning and left and went back home. So they really had a conversation about using him as a
but this week he's supposed to
emotional
be there. I
Willis
think.
Reed type
Yeah.
crutch. I think they really
He's
had
been
that conversation.
DeMar has been at the facility almost every day this week. It would not surprise me if
Yeah,
he was there at the game. You know, if the Bills make
Wouldn't
the
surprise
Super
me he
Bowl, it
led the
would
team out.
yeah, probably. It wouldn't surprise me that if he's on his recovery, if the Bills make the Super Bowl, he plays. Nothing surprises me anymore.
or he's like the place
Or
kicking
dress
holder or
out. They
something.
dress him. Let him dress.
Let him dress. Give him a
Let him
ring.
dress.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
He sh-
the Saturday night game is the game, of course, that has the greatest relevance to both me and to the commish. It's the Giants and the Eagles. So let's start with recapping a little bit of last week. Giants and Vikings gone a
Vikings.
Viking. Yeah, I think all of us projected the
I think
Giants
we
to
all took
beat.
the
I
Giants.
think we all took the. I think weren't the Giants favorite. I think the
They
Giants
were
were
Giants
were
were
road
two.
favorites.
Well, there was a push. I think it was like two. I mean,
Yeah,
home
it
team
was.
giving two, so that was a
So we
pick'em
took.
game.
I
So I
think we
was
all
on.
took the
Everybody was
Giants.
on the Giants because we all know Kirk.
We
We all
all
know
know
Kirk.
Kirk.
We all know him.
We all know that Dalvin Cook is. Listen, I'll say it. Overrated. Uh,
On
he's
his
he's a good back. He's got skills. He's overrated.
I was
I
hearing
don't think
today he's possibly on his way out.
Dalvin wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise
Dalvin
me at all.
Cook, Jerry likes superstars. Dalvin Cook behind the Dallas line as the new Pollard Zeke replacement. I could see something like that. I don't know what his salary situation is, but if
Listen,
I'm
I'll
the
tell you.
Vikings, I'm looking to move him.
And
But you got
if
Madison making pennies.
if I'm Tony Pollard and they bring in Dalvin Cook, I'm signing somewhere else.
I figure he'll be done signed somewhere else by then
I'm
anyway.
leaving. I'm out of there. If Power's not, but I think the best story coming out of last week's game was Daniel Jones. What did he? What he was the first quarterback in postseason history to throw for over 300, had
And run 70.
70 plus rushing with no turnovers. This is Danny Dimes, the turnover machine with nothing.
I
So Dable must be the quarterback whisperer. He must be the whisperer.
He did it with Josh Allen.
He must be the whisperer. I've seen the proof. I was talking to somebody else earlier, in a whole nother conversation. We were talking about Dion, and we were talking about how people keep saying Dion should get these recruits, should get these cornerbacks. And then I was thinking, Dion hasn't really coached that long. What cornerback has he put into the league that we can say this guy with the Dion? Because my thought on Dion that maybe Dion has like a Jordan type thing. When you're the best to ever do it, it's hard to teach it
Yeah.
or see it in other people when you're the best. So I'm just wondering, Dable, his track record is starting to line up. Danny Downs is about to get paid.
Oh,
He is about to get paid.
bank.
And he
He's
won't
getting
have an
bank.
issue getting his contract.
No, he's
I
getting
guarantee.
bank. He's getting paid this offseason. The problem with Daniel Jones and the problem with the Giants, um, everybody is like, well, first of all, people are talking about in Philly how the Giants are like setting up bounties and they're going to go after Jalen Hurts' bad shoulder. That's what they're targeting. And Jalen's like, I
But
get
that's every
targeted
team.
every single day of my
That's
life. I
every
don't even
team.
care. So Jalen Hurts might be the coolest person. All respect to Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts is a cool motherfucker. If you're living here in Philly, he's a good dude. Daniel Jones had a really, really nice game last week. Props to him. He played really, really well against the 30th ranked defense in the NFL. Um, Philadelphia is not the 30th ranked defense. Um, Saquon is not going to go for 26 yards again like he did in week 18. Saquon will play well. And divisional, I mean, it's easy to sit here and say like the Eagles are so much better of a team. They should win this game 38-10. I've done this for long enough to know that when you have a playoff matchup against a divisional rival,
Divisional team.
it's a divisional matchup. If this game is more than 7 points at the end of the game, I'll be shocked. This is a 27-23 game.
So who are you taking,
Eagles.
Jeff?
Don't do it, Jeff. Don't do it.
All right. There are a million skilled players and fantasy players and things of this nature in this game. This would be an awesome fantasy game to probably participate in as well. But it's playoff football.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this game coming down to Jason Kelsey versus Dexter Lawrence. And I just like the role that Dexter Lawrence is on right now. If Danny Dimes can avoid the turnover, I'm going to take the Giants 28-27. I have lived in this bizarro world with the commish for a long time. And this is one of those years when the Giants just barely get by 9-7, 10-6, like the old days. And then they go to the playoffs and they just run straight to the Super Bowl. Doesn't matter. They
We've
have
seen
these
it.
crazy ass years, but they have these odd numbered years, like every 5 years, like clockwork,
Yeah, we've seen it.
where they win the Super Bowl. And this is
2007,
this is one
2011.
of
Yeah.
those teams like Eli was on the trash heap. They won the Super Bowl. We're talking about Danny Dimes not even being in the league 18 months ago.
Hmm.
And now we're talking about him he's probably going to be the next 225, 230 guaranteed $1 million guy.
Oh, he'll
It
get
just is what it
250.
is.
Yeah. Yeah,
It is what it is. So
he'll get 200 for
if he
6
puts this
years.
one, if he notches this one on his belt and knocks off Philly, then he will have ascended. He will have completely changed my mind. I know it's just one game, but he will have completely changed my mind. Because if you can deal with Philly, then you definitely have a shot against either Dallas or San Fran. Either or, you have a shot if you can knock off Philly. So
You
I
think?
don't.
Oh, yeah, Lauren.
I don't. I have mixed feelings because I did call the Eagles for the Super Bowl, but I think the Eagles have the better offensive weapons, like hands down. But
Hmm.
and I really really like Jalen Hurts, but as somebody
but
who's also a Patriots fan and lived the nightmare, I see it. For some weird way I see like some third
some
string
bounce off
nobody
the knee.
Richie James coming in there and somehow beating out AJ. It
Fletcher
sucks.
Cox with the twisted ankle in
Yeah,
the first quarter. Something
yeah.
crazy is going to happen.
I'm just
AJ
like,
Brown with a drop that he never drops. I'm
yeah.
just telling you, this is one of them Giants teams. Look, G-Men 21-17. I believe if you polled most of America outside of Pennsylvania, that they're probably thinking G-Men. If not for nothing else, their
Because
own
they're going
benefit.
in
Their
hot
own benefit,
too.
because they don't want Philly against the 49ers or Dallas. If you're either one of those fan bases, you don't want to see Jalen Hurts
Yep.
in
And
Philly.
it's just like
In
they're
Philly
going
to
in
get to
hot.
the
In
Super
They're
Philly.
Bowl,
coming off of
yeah,
a
you don't
really
want
good
that.
game. Like, yeah, I don't want this. I don't want it, Ian. I don't want it. I
I
really
would say
like
this is the
Philly.
last team that I think
You know,
has a shot at knocking off Philly.
you know what? I mean, I'm sitting here biting my lower lip for the past 3 or 4 minutes because Jeff and Laura. I mean, I love both of you, but I hate both of you right now, and I'll get over
But
it.
I'm not saying it because I like I
Oh, I
don't
know
like
it
that I
doesn't.
said it either. It made me throw up in my mouth a little
It's
saying
got the
that.
juju
Listen,
in the air. It's something in the
listen,
air.
Yeah,
listen.
it's
You can cover the turd with sugar all you want. It's still a
It's
turd.
something in the air. I'm just telling
It's
you.
still a turd. Listen, I think I think offensively, Lauren, I agree with you 100%. The Eagles have the far superior talent
yeah, they
on
should win the
offense.
game,
They
but
should. Now, I would take Jalen Hurts over Daniel Jones. I would take obviously
anybody would.
AJ Brown and or Devonta Smith. And first, I mean, listen, the fact that Devonta Smith, that the Eagles jumped the Giants in the draft 2 years ago and traded with the Cowboys to wind up at 10 to take Smith when that's who the Giants coveted. I think that's
Yeah,
perfect.
but you're missing the Giants just have this fucking
I am
weird
no,
thing
I
that
am not. Oh
happens.
no,
Like as
I
soon as Jeff
listen.
said that, I was like, "Yep, he's talking about like the what that commercial with Eli Manning." I absolutely love it when they're playing charades and he says, I know, it's the helmet catch." And Peyton's like, "Stop talking
It's not
about
a
the helmet
helmet
catch."
catch. It's
This is
27
exactly
words.
what's gonna happen. It's
Lauren,
gonna
I agree with you
happen.
100%.
Something
Mhm.
freaky. Something
As an
freaky.
Eagles fan, well, as yeah, I'm an Eagles fan. I've lived here for long enough that I have dual citizenship in in Philly and Cleveland. I accept it. As an Eagles fan, I'm scared shitless for this game. I see
I
Dallas.
would.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see
Yeah.
the Giants. I know they're hot. Nobody wants to face the hot team going in. It's like Green Bay. If Green Bay would have made it in, I would have been scared shitless of Green Bay. Not because they had such a great season. They're the hot team going in. The Detroit Lions would have scared the shit out of me in
Ooh.
the playoffs. Same reason.
Yeah.
They're playing well and peaking at the right time. I think the Giants are absolutely peaking at the right time. I
And they got
also think
nothing to lose. Like they know
they're
that
on
they're
house money.
ass. They know they're
Exactly.
trash.
Listen, they're on house money, and the next game we'll talk about is also house money. For me, there's something to say that yes, the Giants are hot, but the Eagles are the better team.
Oh, 100%.
They
The
played each
Patriots
other.
were the better the team
Yeah,
in the 18-1
they
season. It's just the Giants do
yeah,
something.
they played each other 2 weeks ago, which meant nothing because the Giants didn't play any starters, and Jalen Hurts was a skeleton offense. They were not getting him hurt. I think the home field advantage at night, Saturday night, outdoors, national audience, Lincoln Financial Field. I think that's the tipper. I think it's a one possession game, 27-23, but I have the
I
Eagles.
mean, I hope you're right. I do.
So do
I
I.
hope. We
I,
shall
Now,
I
see.
talking about
Let's go to
house
the
money.
last game. That's house money.
Yeah, talking about house money. Do we want to talk about how Kansas City is coming in as the #1 seed and probably the best team in the league right now? Or do we want to talk about Chargers going Charger and we got Jacksonville playing with house money?
I
don't
mean,
know,
they're
man.
one and the same. We knew. I think we all. Well, you guys didn't think the Chargers would charger. I told you they would, and that Duval would prevail.
I picked
That,
I picked LA. I did. I went with LA last week.
it,
Jeff, I think you went with Jacksonville, didn't you?
I did go with Jacksonville. I told you, Sunshine. It was Sunshine's time to get him a national
Sunshine.
commercial or two to let the United States remember this
I
guy.
feel like
the
this
Adonis.
game's not worth talking about. This next one, that to me, like that should just be a done deal.
What is?
Jacksonville and Kansas City.
I don't know.
This is the game that if there's going to be an upset, this is the one. There's a 1%.
No,
chance.
that's gonna be the Philly game.
No,
No,
because I think
I
people are actually taking the Giants.
People are taking. There's
Smart
nobody
people are
taking
not
Jacksonville.
betting on
You're saying
Jacksonville.
the sun shines even on Sunshine's ass. Every
Yeah.
once in
Yeah,
a
I
while.
I'm just
think
saying. The
this
Chiefs don't really play great defense. They play
They don't.
enough defense.
Yeah.
And Jacksonville has enough weapons that if they don't give up 5 turnovers, now if you give Patrick Mahomes 5 turnovers, they're gonna die. They're gonna die a very lonely, painful death. But
No,
if they
I
don't
was-
turn the ball over and they manage to just keep things in front of them, I mean,
I was
really, Kansas
recently
City
like
been doing it with smoke and mirrors. They don't have anybody take the top off. They
Jacksonville
don't have a
looks
pounding
good.
back.
I
Jacksonville
was
has a
contemplating if I needed to keep Evan Ingram next year and get rid of Dallas Goddard. Like it's
Ooh, that's a hot fantasy one. That's really
I
hot
traded
fantasy.
you Dallas Goddard.
And you got a
Jeff
little
traded
go.
me Evan Ingram.
I did.
Yeah, Jeff did.
Oh, Jeff did.
I did.
Listen, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a bona fide superstar in this league. He's probably QB5 going into fantasy next year. Realistically,
go with
like
that.
who are you putting ahead of him? He's that young, he's that good with the talent around him and adding Calvin Ridley to that talent next year. But I think the best thing that Jacksonville has going for them right now is Doug Peterson. Doug
Yes.
Peterson is a phenomenal coach. I think just the way he handles that team, how they talked about it in the post-game interviews, that locker room at halftime down 27-7 was just even keel. We're just going to chip away. We can't get 20 points on one play. Now,
I gotta interrupt you for a second. I was reading an article today about Peyton Manning was talking about what happens at halftime.
I was just gonna say that.
He said none of that. He said it's a myth that really by the time they get in there, they got enough time to eat an orange and piss, and then they come back out again.
Mm-hmm.
He said no adjustments. Nobody talks to coaches.
No, but that's the way. But that's the way he leads that team. That there's no panic. That's how.
Well, I guess Peyton was trying to say that people go in this locker room and they dig back in the playbook and they make these great adjustments. And it's no. We make these game plans like on Monday. It is what it is. We're gonna keep running the same shit.
No, there wasn't adjustments. It's about keeping that team even.
But they could have fallen apart though, because that was a lot of turnovers.
They're like the famous halftime adjustment routine. Like they say with Belichick all the time, and like Peyton was saying, there's enough time to go to the bathroom.
The game plan is the game. You got to take off 8 layers of pads. That's it.
If there's an adjustment, I think in any of these games, then it's probably, even though it sounds corny, it's probably more of a Ray Lewis type. What the fuck are you guys doing? I didn't come all the way up here to get my ass kicked on Monday night. Those kind of guys talking, as opposed to X receiver, and we're gonna move this guy over here, and now you're gonna travel. No, you're not doing all that shit. Not in mid game. Not
So
in mid game.
are we in agreement then that there's no way Jacksonville beats Kansas City? Does anybody have the balls or the ovaries to take Jacksonville
At Kansas City? No, I
at
don't have
Kansas
them.
City?
I don't have them. Not against my homeboy. I don't
No.
have it.
So, Lauren, we need to get your projection on Dallas San Fran.
Okay, and then I got to take off again, unfortunately. Dallas, San Fran, I don't know.
You're
Well,
not
you don't
going
have
to
a
dare
choice.
take the Cowboys,
You have
are
to
you?
pick
You
one.
have to.
You
Your
are a
life
host on this
depends on-
show. You must pick one. There are no ties in the playoffs.
My gut says San Fran, but then I'm like, what if
Oh, not a what if.
Dak has some shit and Brock can't keep? I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna have to take San Fran because like that just makes sense. But I also took Seattle last week. Don't forget that.
We don't forget.
We don't forget.
All right, so we are unanimous on
Or
San
week
Fran.
before.
We are
Yeah, I can't
unanimous.
see that going any other way.
We're unanimous on Kansas City.
Yep.
And we are split on Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Philly and the Giants.
Yes, we are.
I will gloat next week.
All right, gentlemen. I've got to take off. I had to stop by. I was missing you guys.
We miss you.
Stay safe, everyone.
All right. See you next week, Lauren.
Take care.
So, Mr. Jeff, are you ready to get into some Lamar, or do you want to get in, or do you want to get into some Tom Brady first?
Let's get into Lamar. I'm Brady. You know, everybody talks about Brady. Let's talk about Lamar. What's going on with Lamar and this contract here?
So maybe everybody doesn't know. Maybe you've been living under a rock for the last 7 weeks. So Lamar hurt his PCL 7-8 weeks ago, maybe 9 weeks ago. Hasn't played since. Hasn't practiced since. This was a grade 2 injury, which he came out on Twitter and said it's a borderline grade 3.
I did see that.
I did a little bit of research. I did some WebMD. I don't know that there's really a borderline grade 3. It's grade 2 or it's grade 3. I don't know that there's really a litmus test, but I'm not a doctor. I just went on to WebMD. I am Dr. Google. The problem is the controversy, if you will, came here at the end of the season and into the playoffs, where there was a lot of people on the national outlets, the ESPNs, the PFFs, questioning whether Lamar was really hurt. Was he quote unquote milking his injury? Was he even faking his injury so that he didn't play, didn't get hurt anymore, looking for that guaranteed contract? There were former players who were saying, just stick a brace on it, put a brace on it, go out and play. I don't agree with that. We have spoken on this show, whether it be about concussion, head injury, or other injuries. You know your body. If you're hurt, you're hurt. And other people can question that. That's what it is. I think the problem with Lamar came with the fact that he didn't travel with the team to Cincinnati for the playoff game after the tweet that went out, which, we talked about tweets last week or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about, help me out here, Jeff. Who did that tweet that we,
I can't remember.
I can't. He does it all the time.
We debated about
Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless over tomorrow. And we had a big debate here of you can't read into tweets, you can't get people's language. It's like their body language, their intonations. It's like a text, which is true. But basically, Lamar's tweet said, "When you got something good, you treat it good. If you treat it bad, then it's going to treat you bad. It'll go away," which is a clear message to Ravens ownership, to Ravens management, saying you need to take care of me if you want me to be here. And I have a problem with that. To me, that is a me attitude. And if you're a baseball player You can have a me attitude. You do a lot of stuff on your own. You don't have a team catching a fly ball in right field, where football is the ultimate team game. Um, I don't think I think Lamar is legitimately injured. I feel personally that there might be some legitimacy to him being not that hurt anymore. I think let's put it this way. If Lamar had already been paid, if he had already gotten his contract, I think that there's a chance that he would have been playing at the end of this past season into the playoffs. I
That's
think there
possible.
I think there's legitimacy that, hey, I'm already hurt. I've already gotten hurt. I want my money
Before I
fair
get hurt again.
before I get hurt again. And that's kind of the problem in it.
But that's kind of how they have it. I mean, that's how the system is really set up like
It
that,
is,
though. I mean,
and you know, and Merrill and I, had a really good, I thought, conversation on our group chat when we talked
mhm,
about, the franchise tag. Now that the Ravens have signed Roquan Smith, they can franchise uh, Lamar, and he'll make $30 million, but he won't have that 7-year guaranteed money that he wants. Listen, frankly, Deshaun Jackson's contract with 100% guaranteed money is an outlier. That'll never happen again. It won't. It won't ever happen again. But it's what Lamar wants, and he's not going to get it. And that's where the standoff is. Yes, there may be some garbage ass team like the Houston Texans sorry, Clint, like the Houston Texans that may
they
give
suck.
out a guaranteed contract like that. But then, great, you got your money. You're never going to do anything else, win anything for the rest of your life, except for maybe when you play the Cleveland Browns. Um, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this comment. But there was another superstar player that came out that made a comment on Twitter this past week that was among the same flavor. And I have the greatest of respect for LeBron James. I think
Hmm.
he is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He is one of the greatest businessmen of all time. He has earned everything he got. But he came out of a game the other week, or the one day earlier this week, and was complaining that you need to call more fouls and put me on the line more. There's a lot of fouls, and you need to call them for me. And Jeff, I swear to God, I recognize the fact that those are Lamar and LeBron are two prominent black athletes, and I'm a white man, so I don't really get the black side of it. I'll freely, put that out there. But I think the two comments are similar. I think the two comments are me. Look at me. You need to call more fouls for me. You need to take better care of me if you want me to take better care of you, Lamar. And it's that kind of stuff that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I don't think there's a chance in hell that Lamar Jackson is a starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens
Shouldn't be.
next year. I don't think there's a chance in hell.
So I'll just jump in somewhere in the
Sorry.
midst of that. I mean, we were part of the that same group chat when we talked with Merle, and I am I'm on the side. Merle and I differ on a lot of things when it comes to how you should handle something if you're a black athlete. I am on the side business wise. There is no team. I'm sorry. There's way too much money involved to worry about the team. And I think the ending of the conversation we had the other day was, I am an independent contractor of this
Hmm.
large corporation. And as an independent contractor, like I heard the other day that something just came out that Trey Young got a fine for taking a private plane back in the playoffs last year instead of
Hmm.
riding with the team. Things like that. As an independent contractor, my job is merely to make sure your product is sold or marketed the way it needs to be done. Everything that goes into how that gets done, if there is not a specific training manual or this is the policy, we got to do this, you got to be here, you got to say this, then anything else, nothing else goes. I don't believe, I think I said this back in August, September. I don't believe Lamar Jackson should have ever played any game for the Baltimore Ravens this
You
year.
did say that. Yep, you said it.
He shouldn't have stepped on the field, shouldn't have showed up at training camp without some type of guaranteed contract. Now, Maybe he's not worth 230. He's not worth 250 million. But when I look around and I see that we know without a doubt, Danny Dimes. We said a few minutes ago, 18 months ago, we thought he might not be in the league. We know
Mm-hmm.
he's getting $200 million, some kind of way, shape, or form. We know Justin Herbert's going to get his money. We know Burrow is about to come around and get money. We are
Mm-hmm.
talking the last 2 weeks ago about whether Tua should even sniff grass again, and they've already named him as the starter for next year, which means they're
Starter.
going to pick up his extension.
Well,
He's going to get a new deal.
they said he's going to be on the team. They didn't necessarily say he'll be the starter.
McDaniel said he would be the starter today.
McDaniel is not going to even be the head coach next year. Other story.
Ah,
Go ahead.
is that a hot take? Is that your hot
That's
take?
a hot
McDaniel's
take.
fired. That is.
Yeah,
a hot
he's
take.
going to be selling ad time at the Super Bowl for the Juul nicotine smokeless cigarette. That's all.
So everybody that I've seen on TV, I know I belong to this crowd, the get off my lawn older side crowd. When I see these players and stuff talking about what he should do for the team, you have to go no further than RG3. The one person that I really don't like in all of this situation, I never was an RG3 fan. Conway thought he was kind of goofish and cornish, but he has the best take of anyone. And if his story isn't the definitive Bible as
Mm-hmm.
to why you don't go out and play playoff games for the team, then nothing else. Nothing will convince you. You have to go no further than put on that brace. He
Mm-hmm.
was never the same.
Never.
He never. We were talking. This guy got traded for how many draft picks? 5,
All
6
of them.
draft picks. He
All of them.
altered. He altered several franchises with that draft, and he didn't even make it to his second NFL contract.
No,
Now,
he didn't.
Lamar, you want Lamar to go out here with an MVP trophy under my belt, with a team that's been to the playoffs almost every year except one that I've been here, and play for the team with no guaranteed money.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I think
Absolutely not.
Jeff, your point is extremely well taken when you said in August, September, he should not play it down. And I think if I remember correctly, you stood alone on that. I think the rest of us were not with that viewpoint. But if the viewpoint is you should not play it down until you get paid, if you choose to play and you start week 1, then if you can play later in the season, I think you need to play. If you're going to not play, then you need to sit out the entire season. You need to, if you're not going to be a part of it, don't be a part of it. But you can't start and then midway through say, oh, I got a little bumped up there. Nobody knows how severe his injury was. It could be a grade 1.3 PCL,
And it could be.
meniscus, whatever, or he could have dislocated his kneecap. We're not in the doctor's office. There's HIPAA. We're not going to get that information. But regardless, if you're not, if your stance is, I want my money, he's earned it. That's his right. Absolutely, I'm not questioning that.
But if he
But if you
sits out
start it, you
and
can't stop
doesn't
halfway
play,
through.
but if he doesn't play, then the narrative is he's selfish because he signed a contract.
Well,
He's
that's
not
but-
saying that I
Okay.
won't play. I played until I got hurt, and I'm no longer able to fulfill the obligations of this contract
Yeah, you
due to
see,
my injury.
that's
Yeah,
what the narrative is. What the
that's what the
perception,
narrative.
but what the perception is now is that he played, and then when he felt like this could go really badly for
And
me,
it can go really badly.
he quit. He
But
quit. Now,
what's the difference between him and Tua running back out in the field, knowing it can go very badly for me, but everybody's like, well, he's a hero or he shouldn't play.
yeah.
But Lamar hurts his knee. Like, it's a whole lot of parallels I've noticed as a Dolphins
I
fan
mean,
between this and the Lamar thing. Like,
I-
Lamar didn't come to the game. Well, Tua didn't come to the game.
Well,
Didn't hear
first
that.
of all, with Tua, his is a concussion. Had he gone to any of the other road games since his last concussion? I don't have that information. So
I
it
don't.
may be with that type of a head injury, they don't want you in highly compressed air on an airplane. I don't know that. But I think the comparison that you're trying to make between Tua getting hurt and Lamar getting hurt, what the narrative is, and by the narrative I mean by the fan, by you, by me, by fantasy footballers, by people who watch the game but are not players. I would love it if EJ would have been here this week just to discuss this one.
Mhm.
But I think the narrative really is perceptive because I still, and Lauren would jump on this, I don't think head injuries are taken as seriously as physical injuries, as a knee sprain, because you can physically see it. Now, if you do a CAT scan on a brain, you can see some brain damage, swelling in this area. I'm not a doctor, I'm Dr. Google. But I think if somebody has a head injury, I think falsely the perception is put a band-aid on it. Whereas with a physical injury, it's not.
Well,
I just think that's where
we can
perception is.
take the injury part out. If we can step back from the injury part, I think that in 2023, 2022, going forward, I think the what we think of still as maybe the young, dumb 21 to 25-year-old athlete no longer exists. These kids getting NIL deals, these
Hmm.
kids have been on ESPN since their sixth grade. We
Hmm.
have reached the level, and they don't have the power because, as you stated earlier this week, about because of the CBA, they
Hmm.
have given away their power. But at the same time, Lamar is kind of at the forefront. And I say that only not that he's like some civil rights leader, but he's also his own agent. So he
Hmm.
doesn't have a buffer in between the team when the team tells you we love you, and then they tell your agent, but we didn't like those 12 turnovers you had. There's no buffer. So he's getting it raw straight from the GM, and
I
that
get it.
might offend him sometimes. But I say that to say Lamar, the LeBrons, the LeBron is basically the godfather of this. The young black athlete today knows their value more than any other point in history.
Well, that's the
And
J.K.
and,
Dobbins as well, saying that should be me.
JK, and we went from, and we though we look at it sometimes as me, they have gone from the fact that we are not, for lack of a better word, it's still a plantation, but we're independent contractors on this plantation. We are not slaves to this plantation because, as you stated earlier, you know what? It is correct. If you have your principle that you're standing on, and I know Lamar's not going to do it, but there's going to come a time when a guy's going to be like, I'm not going to sign a franchise tag. The worst thing that can ever happen to the NFL is if Deshaun Watson actually lives up to 230 million guaranteed dollars, and guys start figuring
Correct.
out,
Yeah.
you know what, I don't have to be suspended. I can fake injury, or I can just say I'm not going to play for you, and I will wait it out the last year or two of a deal, get my legs fresh. Because if you think about it, if I
Well,
played high school football, if I played 60 games at Georgia, going to a 12-team playoff, and now I've played 2 or 3 18-game seasons, and I'm only 25, a 1 year rest is not the worst thing that could ever happen to me. It
okay,
takes
but
away from
keep
your
in mind,
earning
yeah.
power, but
Keep in mind one thing here, Jeff, is that if you are on if you're on a 5-year contract, and after year 3 you say, to use your phrase, I'm taking a year off. I am going to say I'm injured, whatever. If you don't play that next year, you don't get a year accrued of service. Plantation, okay. You don't get a year accrued of service, which means you're not a year closer to free agency. That's
this
why
won't
some
work
players
for every guy. This is only going to work for the guys like Lamar. You're going to have to run your 5, and then you're going to have to be willing to sit and then sign because he would be a free agent. He will
after
have,
this year, he will be a
yes,
free agent. Yes.
he will have completed everything that I've completed my obligation to you for $9 million. Anybody in their right mind that thinks that Lamar Jackson is only worth $9 million in the age where Matt Ryan makes $28 million a year
No
is
argument.
fucking retarded. So
No
I
argument.
understand he might not get the fully guaranteed, but there's gonna have to be something. And as his own agent, he might say, "Hey, I don't have to give 10% of this away to Ari Gold or whomever," but he can't also, for every other player that's coming after him, just take some ridiculously low ball offer so that we say it
But
doesn't matter what you've done, Lamar. But when the next guy comes along
yeah.
and they say, well, Lamar won an MVP and he only took 150, Why won't you
So,
take 140?
but
It's gonna
why
go. It's got to
does
go both ways.
but why would an independent contractor care about the next guy? As an independent contractor, you're worried about yourself. Here's a
Well,
question for you, Jeff.
there's a union of independent
A
contractors.
union of
Really,
independent contractors.
that's really what
So
it is.
I'm going to give you three choices here. You tell me which of these three choices is most likely to happen with Lamar, and then I want to pivot to Tom Brady in our last 5 minutes. Um, Lamar Jackson, which of these three options for you is most likely to happen in 2023?
All
He
right.
A is the starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. B is the starting quarterback for another team. Don't even care which one. Or three, takes a year of sabbatical until he gets what he feels he deserves and he wants that guaranteed money. What happens?
B.
hmm
B is
I,
most likely, but I
I agree.
put B and then C and then A. I think that relationship
Well,
is burnt. Unless you call him up and say, hey, we're sorry we offended you. Here's you go. You are now the highest paid quarterback in football, at least for the moment. That's something you can't say, yeah, let's call you back and think about it. That's something, where's the paper? What's the real details
so
of
you
this
don't think
highest paid
Lamar
quarterback in
wants
football?
so you don't think Lamar wants a public apology. He wants
No,
the paper. That's it.
he
That's all that
wants to
matters.
check.
Fair
The
enough.
one of the other things about the new black athlete is they don't really care about sorries and stuff. We've seen again, it's forefront LeBron. I'm the type of person Dan Gilbert couldn't tear me down in the newspaper, and then I come back to Cleveland. LeBron, much big thinking, long game,
hmm
legendary stuff. Coming back to Cleveland, he
hmm
says pushes the Dan Gilbert shit aside, comes back, wins a ring. I personally don't think I could do that. Lamar might be making a mistake. I think Lamar and the Ravens, the way they are perfectly construed, are a match made in heaven. But
So
sometimes you fuck up with the
yeah,
wife and you can't put it back together. And I think Steve Bisciotti allowed this to become fucked up. He could have fixed this even as late as whatever the late deadline was for signing. Was it July, August? You could have up the sign out extension. Or
I
Lamar
think
maybe gave him a
yeah, I
cutoff and
think
said, I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
yeah, he cut it off at week one of the regular
So
season.
So I gave you a deadline to make it right. Buy me a ring, new car, something shiny to make me say you care. And we basically said, eh, that's what they
Yeah.
said. That's what they said.
So
Going out
so
there.
that's the mindset of the new black athlete.
I
How
feel like
about
it
the
is.
how about the mindset of the old white athlete? Three options, same game. Tom Brady in 2023, is he the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? B, the starting quarterback of some other team, anyone. And if you pick B, I'm going to ask you which one. Or
Uh,
C, retired for more than 40 days. Picking up that
it's a
10-year,
two
$300
question.
million Fox contract.
If Tampa Bay has its way, they run it back with Tom.
hmm
Tom at 40, going 46
hmm
when we're in the next season,
Yep.
their offensive line is not good enough for Tom to stay there. Tom knows that he
hmm
can't be there behind that type of line.
hmm
Now, without knowing all salary cap situations off the top of my head, only because I just hear a lot of stuff. I'm thinking, and I don't know how that would work with Russell, but the Denver route, the Jets, the Raiders, the Dolphins,
So are you
in no
going B?
order.
He plays for someone else?
I say B because Tom doesn't want to go out 8-10. I think Tom also likes the idea of coming back to the ALC and sticking it to Belichick some kind of way. I have
hmm
to look through the schedule. I would guarantee that whatever team Tom signs with, New England is somewhere on that schedule next year.
Okay.
So I don't know what that leads to other than Miami. And as a Dolphins fan, I would personally take a sabbatical off from being a fan for a year if Tom Brady is our quarterback. More
All
power
right.
to him. But
So
I say B.
I will agree with you. I think it's also B. Um, I don't think there's any way Tom will go to Denver. Not because Denver wouldn't want him, not because it wouldn't be a good fit. Denver is stuck with Russell Wilson. With that
Stuck.
contract, it's like a $50 million dead cap hit. if he's
Yeah.
off that team next year, and that's like 25% of the entire team not playing somebody. So now you have 75% of a roster, and you got to pay Tom $30 million. Denver is not an option. I agree with you. I think he probably stays, Angela. He probably stays in the AFC or goes back to the AFC,
Pilgrimage.
excuse me. Not necessarily. Yes, he would love to stick it to Bill, but he already did that once. They already met his first season on a Monday night or
I think he
Sunday
just
night
hates
in
him.
New England and beat him. If I had to pick a team where Tom will go, it will be a team that has the opportunity of winning right away, which
Don't say
knocks
it.
out the Jets, which knocks out Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I think if he comes back, and I think he will come back for one more year, I think it's in Las Vegas. I think if he had his way, he would go to San Francisco, his hometown team, the team that he idolized. Everybody's seen the picture of him, in the stands at the 81 championship game. That would be his dream to come back home and play for his hometown team.
I would
There are
drive
too many
that car too, but
There are too many quarterbacks there. I mean, first of all, they're tied to Trey Lance. Jimmy Garoppolo's off of that team next year. Brock Purdy's your quarterback. Brock Purdy, who is
who?
who's projected to win an NFC divisional playoff game. So there's no way Tom Brady goes there. I think the matchup or the linking of Tom Brady back with Josh McDaniels, who they did great things in New England, along with I think Josh Jacobs runs it back to have a legitimate running game in Vegas. I would love to see Tom with Devontae Adams. Just memories of that with
I
Randy Moss for that 1 year. I would love to see that. I think he goes to Vegas.
I I think Tom retires before that happens. I
Yeah.
don't. I At 46, and I like the Raiders. I like Devontae Adams. I always thought Tom chose Tampa Bay because they did have Godwin and Evans,
And no
but
sales tax.
the NFC South path is so easy. Signing up with Vegas and then subscribing to 4 doses of Mahomes and Herbert every year, and even the Denver defense. If Russell gives them anything, the Denver defense and those other 2 games, that's a hard road to carry.
But that's what
That's a
drives
hard
Tom.
road.
Tom wants to play the best.
But plus, also, I like the pairing of Brady and McDaniel if McDaniel was the OC and not the head guy. If somebody else was calling the shots and they would just work together, I'd like that more. I hate McDaniel as a head coach. He's the reason why
Yeah.
one of the topics we didn't get to about retread coaches, he
Oh
brings
yeah.
that up to me. But we'll have to get on the retread coaches this week
Yeah,
because I know
definitely.
we're at an hour and 2 minutes. I know we gotta put the
Gotta
baby to
wrap.
bed. So
Thank you, Danny.
get back to the Raiders. You're taking Raiders.
Raiders. The
Raiders.
Raiders.
You just want him out the NFC so your Commanders can win. That's all that is.
The Commanders.
Sam
The
Howell
Commanders.
starting quarterback for the Commanders next year. Mark it down.
The Commanders couldn't win a selfie with a girl at a Chatterbait convention.
You hear him
The
talking about your
Commanders
team.
aren't winning nothing.
You hear him talking about your team. All right. So
Sorry, Danny.
we're gonna end on that Washington bashing for the day. So we'll see if we're in here bashing the Cowboy fans or if they're all in therapy by next week. But we will be back next Wednesday, 7:30. Ian the Champ, Big Jeff, Clinton, Lauren, probably somewhere doing whatever by now. But we're out. We'll catch you next week.